はご覧のスポンサーの提供でお送りします。
Hey guys, Kakarot197 again. This time with a review of the 1/44 scale high-grade Universal Century Penelope from the Hathaway's Flash movie series. And this model kit has been provided to me by the amazing people over at HobbyLink Japan. So if you want to buy your own Penelope Gundam, there is a link in the description down below. And man, don't let the scale of this thing fool you. Even though it's a 1/44 scale, building it reminded me more of building an RE100 or one of the old 1/100 scale Gundam Seed model kits. Because as you can see, it's about the same size, even slightly bigger. But of course, the quality is significantly better than an old Gundam Seed no grade. For starters, there are almost no seam lines to be found on this thing. Unfortunately, a few are still visible, and the ones on the tail are especially bad, with one even requiring glue to shut the gap. And the story is almost the same when it comes to the color accuracy of this thing. With only a few stickers here and there, the eyes, the main camera, and the inside of the thrusters, you will only have to do a little bit of painting on these thrusters and this blue piece that should be gray, and the Odysseus Gundam is perfect. Although it is worth mentioning that there is also another slightly more colorful rendition of the Odysseus Gundam. So if you prefer that one, you will have to do a little bit more painting. For the fixed flight unit, you will have to do a little bit more detailed painting, but overall it will still look amazing out of the box. You get 2 red stickers for the wings, a blue and a yellow one for what looks like a head, gray for the inside of a thruster, and 2 red ones for the sensors on the chest. Then for painting, you will have to paint these pieces yellow, the inside here should be gray, and then good luck painting all of the in-betweens of these giant yellow parts. But again, fortunately, out of the box, both look absolutely fine. And also, maybe a little spoiler warning, I really do like them the way they are right now. The Odysseus Gundam, not just in name but also in design, looks like a more Greek take on the traditional Gundam design. And then the fixed flight unit, although I've seen some people calling it a chicken or something similar, I feel that it looks much more like a dragon. And it's not just any dragon. It's a dragon that can wag its tail. Yeah, it's not side to side, but work with me here. And in this mode, it just looks like a really cool, badass mobile armor. So let's move this to the side and focus on the Odysseus Gundam. So let's have a look at the accessories, starting off with what's already on the machine. The 2 composite weapon units on the arms. So they're called composite because they combine a beam saber right here with a mega particle cannon that folds out and goes to the front just like that, allowing you to pull some really cool poses with those. And then for the beam sabers, we of course also get 2 really nice pink beam saber blades. These are the slightly longer, newer style high-grade beam sabers. They fit perfectly, and just as with the mega particle cannon, they look amazing in action poses. And other than the beam saber and the mega particle cannon, these units also house a bunch of missiles. But of course, you can't see them with the model kit. But they are there. Then for handheld weaponry, we only get the single beam rifle, but man, has a lot of effort been put into making this thing. Everything you see, every different color is a different part, except for the really nice metallic red sensor, which also looks amazing as a sticker. But other than that, even the little red dot on the tip is a separate red piece. So for just a beam rifle, which can sometimes be as simple as 2 halves slapped together and then the tip on top of it, this is really well designed. And thanks to the dedicated trigger finger hand, it's not going to flop around when you put it in amazing action poses. And to make these action poses even better, you can also put one of the beam saber blades into the barrel, and this time it is something that the manual actually tells you that you can do. And even though we do only get 2 beam saber blades, you can of course borrow beam saber blades from any other high grade, even if they're not the newer style longer beam saber blades. The older, slightly shorter ones fit just fine. And in addition to the pair of closed fist hands and the trigger finger hand, we also get a pair of open palm hands. And before I get to the dreaded task of transforming this thing into the Penelope, let's first have a look at the articulation that you can pull off with this thing. Because believe me, once it's turned into the Penelope, there will not be much left of the articulation, not that you would want to do it in the first place. So the head is on a very nice double ball joint, goes up really nicely, down nicely, and will also go side to side and does everything a ball joint does. The shoulders, unfortunately, are significantly less intricate than anything from the past decade. It is simply a peg, so it will rotate around all the way, and once you're careful with the weapon unit, will also go up nicely. And then this thruster does go up to allow for a little bit more movement. So we have no ball joint, no extra hinge, which means that any pose that the Odysseus Gundam makes feels slightly more static. And you might think, like I first did, well, it makes sense because you're going to transform this thing into the Penelope, and then the shoulders are going to have to carry those giant shoulder additions. But no, they're not connected to the shoulder, they're instead connected to the body. So I really feel like they could have made the shoulders significantly more articulated. Then it will also rotate around below the shoulder. It bends at the elbow on two joints for as far as they can go, really. And then the hands are on ball joints, will wiggle around, turn around, and does everything a ball joint does. One more cool feature is that it also rotates around here. So you can go like this, and then basically the double joint is still there and gets you about the same as if you have it turned this way. It's just that the weapon unit now gets in the way significantly less. The waist is just as with the shoulders, a rather simple design, but since this will be carrying most of the fixed flight unit, I would say in this case it is a good thing. There is technically a ball joint inside the chest, but it's not really going to be doing a whole lot. Most of it will be the pivot here, which also doesn't rotate around that much. The legs, though, are nicely articulated. The front skirts are molded together, but can be separated. Go forwards really far. Then for the backwards movement, even though there is a giant back skirt, as you might be able to tell, you can't simply separate this, allowing for a bit more backwards movement if you're careful and if you want to, really. Outwards movement is equally impressive. This folds up and goes to the side all the way. Then when it comes to rotation, we have a peg joint here, which will allow the leg to rotate around all the way, in addition to the ball joint, which will also allow for some rotation by itself. Then this joint here will also allow the legs to go side to side. The knees are double jointed, allowing you for a lot of movement. Then the feet are on the typical hinge and ball joint combo, so they go forwards nicely, backwards nicely, then the tip of the foot also moves nicely, and then of course we do have some sideways movement and some rotation on that ball joint. Unfortunately, that ball joint is also not super tight, which will again lead to a few problems later on. And now the dreaded moment for me has come, to Voltron these two into the Penelope. And one additional piece I will need to achieve that is this piece that will make the legs stand apart wider. And I'm very happy that they made this a separate piece and not something that slides out in the legs to make them even weaker. One thing I quickly want to mention during the transformation is this tail. It's supposed to be able to slide in and out, but it is also really loose in there. And there we go, the fully transformed Penelope. And the first thing I'm going to recommend you to do is to buy either an Action Base 1 or Action Base 4. Because as you've probably been able to tell, it is quite shaky on the included Action Base. And as you probably expected, despite the articulation of the fixed flight unit, the Penelope is seriously gimped when it comes to its articulation now. And while the legs retain most of their articulation, the ball-jointed hips are almost completely incapable of supporting the extra bulk and weight. A simple peg really would have been much better here. Fortunately, the flight mode that I will show you in a little bit does use pegs to lock them into place. Basically, if you want this thing to do a shark kick, get your super glue ready, but if you just want to do some more basic poses, you should be fine. Now let's look at some of the extra weapons that the fixed flight unit gives to the Odysseus Gundam. First, we have the mega particle cannons that are on top of those giant shoulder pads. They're on a ball joint at the bottom and a hinge and in the middle, and they will fold out like that. And the best part is they also have a hole in them, so you can again use those pink beam effect parts for some really cool shots. Again, we do only get 2 of them, but you can always use other 1/44 scale beams. Then the next weapons are the very unique funnel missiles. These are stored inside of those giant shoulder pods and also on the back of the front skirt armor. Unlike the regular missiles of the composite weapon unit, these can actually be controlled through psycho waves. And then the final 2 option parts that we're getting are these 2 covers, which can be used instead of the more traditional intakes on the chest. And finally, what is a bulky mobile armor-esque mobile suit without a flight mode to transform into? And there we go, the flight mode. And now I can just transform this thing back to the Odysseus Gundam and the fixed flight unit separately, and I never have to transform this thing ever again. Also, we are getting 1 leftover junk part from the action base. As always, the inevitable question is, do you want to buy this? And well, at 6,800 yen or 5,780 yen at Hobby Link Japan, you could say that this isn't the average high-grade Universal Century kit, although in certain aspects it most definitely is. If you're looking for a technologically impressive kit with amazing posability and a great bang for the buck, this ain't it. But on the flip side, if you're looking for a 1/144 scale kit that looks impressive straight out of the box and also stands out from the rest of your collection, the Penelope is definitely worth considering. Because with its great construction and its really bulky look, it does look amazing. Just don't forget about buying that extra stand and allocating some extra space in your display area. Then for some size comparisons, first of all, let's put him next to some other really impressive high grades, the Full Armor Gundam from Thunderbolt and the Psycho Gundam from Zeta Gundam. It might not be quite as big as the Psycho Gundam, but believe me, this thing is still plenty bulky. And for that, let's put him next to two 1/100 scale kits, the RE 100 scale Mark III and the Master Grade Gym Sniper 2. As you can see, when it comes to bulk, even a standard 1/100 scale kit is no match for the Penelope. And talking about bulky machines, finally here is next to the standard size Gym Custom and the usually bulky Zaku 3, who is now suffering from a serious inferiority complex. And that's all for this review of this very bulky boy. As always, a big thank you to the Patreon supporters and Hobbylink Japan for providing me with this model kit. I hope you all have a great day, and I will see you all next time.